I just want to share a book title or two, if I may. Now, I'm often being asked, what are good books for business, for leadership, for team, for a raft of different areas. And as you can see, I read a fair bit myself. And I've also gotten into the habit now of actually authoring a couple of my own books. So there's a couple of books. Firstly, I want to talk about Lead Without Limits. It's part of the Lead Without Limits series. In fact, it's the first in this series, and it's about the habits that are holding you back and how to break free as a leader. And it's a hold the mirror up book. It's have a read through it, reflect on the habits that are offered in there and how they sit with you, and whether or not it's a habit that you can address and deal with. Now, for me, when I write these books, it's based off my experience as a coach over the last 22, almost 23 years. And 10 years of that was serving in the military, where I was a high performance coach, a leadership mentor, and did a bit of executive coaching as well. And that, combined with what I've done over the last decade and a bit, over the last 13 years out here in the world of business and working with leadership teams, working with boardrooms, actually inspired me to write the second book in the series, which is the 26 Irrefutable Laws of the Boardroom. And I'm absolutely ecstatic, this is my ecstatic face, to tell you that we've just published that one, and that is now available on Amazon to buy. Now, the whole premise of the 26 Irrefutable Laws of the Boardroom are based on my experience, both at senior leadership level, working within the boardroom, C-suite, and also the years that I spent sat at the operational end of regimental duties, whether that is in the UK or whether that is on operations, and where you sit around the table in that context and discuss what's happening in the regiment, within the battle group, within the operational field that you might be in. Now, this book takes those lessons and combines them with what I've learned since I've been out as well, and how I brought those two things together. And it focuses on 5 codes. So the codes it focuses on, the code of me, which really is about you at the table. How do you turn up at the table? What is it that makes and drives you? And there are a few laws in here which are directly associated with that. It focuses on the code of you. So what you expect from those around you on the table, and what they should be bringing to the table. And if they're not, then it's part of your responsibility to actually make sure that that conversation is happening and that development is happening. It focuses on the team with the code of us. How do we come together as a team, and how do we operate as a team? Now, this is a high functioning team. When you think about a senior leadership team, you think of a management team, board of directors, whether that's an operations board or even the C-suite. Those people, that team within an organization can have a far-reaching positive impact, and dare I say, a negative impact if we're not careful or highly aware of what it is and how it is we're doing things. I then talk about the code of leading. So actually, how do we turn up as leaders? What's the element where we start to make sure that we're not ego-driven, but our focus, our drive, our commitment at that level is driven by a sense of leadership and what that leadership means to the wider organization. And then the codes, we round off with the 5th code, which is the code of them. Now, when I was on operations, the code of them would be maybe the indigenous folk that are in and around the location. It could be, units that are left and right of your position. And what I find since we've left and started working in the business world, it's actually your customers. It's the wider context of businesses that you're working with, or suppliers up and down the chain, and absolutely the stakeholders, the people who actually do have a stake in the business and what it is you do. And so that 5th code of the code of them. Now, this is all bound together by 4 principles. And the first principle is, I'm likely to piss you off because I give a shit. And the premise behind that is that it focuses on the context of healthy conflict. If you're going to sit at that level, if you're going to be a leader, that is sat at the boardroom table, then you need to get comfortable, 1, with being challenged, and 2, with challenging others. The second principle that I work by is having to lift the lid on emotions, both your own and those of the folk that you are sat with at the table, and then the wider organisation. And the point here is really about being tuned into emotional intelligence. So knowing how you turn up and knowing how others turn up and how their emotions are presented. And it just helps with a multitude of different aspects. So as a principle, as a guiding principle, it makes a lot of sense, within the 26 irrefutable laws. The other one then is you play for the name on the front of the shirt, not the one on the back. And this really does start to drill down onto, actually not bringing ego to the table, recognizing that it's not about being a prima donna, but it's actually about what you represent and who is at the front. That what's the badge, the emblem, what's the name of the organization. The name on the back plays second fiddle to that, because that name is part of the organization and having a positive impact. So you play for the name on the front of the shirt, not the one on the back. And then the final principle is one of not colluding. And this really does start to focus on higher levels of communication, being really tuned into what's going on within the team, within the boardroom, within the organization, and maybe even the wider context. So if you're interested, we've just published. I'm delighted to say that the 26 irrefutable laws of the boardroom is out there and ready to go. And if you haven't read it already, then Lead Without Limits is the first in the series. And later this year, we'll publish the third in the series, and we'll talk about that later on. Anyway, whatever you're doing, wherever you are, having a great day, and look forward to any comments, observations, anything that actually you find interesting within the books. Have a great day. Thanks a lot.